And I don't know if anyone's looked at the sheet and seen this, but Adam does not pick his prospects well.
The question is, does Max make the playoffs if he doesn't sell?
Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to the first and hopefully last episode of the Fuck the Nats podcast.
That's the thing. It's like when you're me and like you know that you're a fucking idiot, stick with Christian Vasquez and he will lead my team in steals again.
The memories that come to the surface most clearly are me sorting my baseball cards one way one night and then completely redoing them the next night.
Actually, I'm going to reframe this. JD, why don't you start by talking about Dylan Beavers?
Apologies, I couldn't hear your question because the audio went out.
Hello and welcome everyone to the FTN podcast. I don't have my usual crew member here that you guys will see pretty much on a weekly basis going forward. Ben is sitting this one out. Instead, I get the honor of co-hosting this with Bryce Miller's Splitter. That was a joke. This is Adam, of course. His name in this, he listed as Bryce Miller's Splitter. This could not be a very funny joke at all if this doesn't appear in the final product that makes it to people's screens. They're going to wonder, what on earth we're even talking about? But that is how Adam wishes to be identified during this call. And then we have Ryan Ulrich on here as a special guest. I've crowdsourced some questions from people in the league. We'll be asking him some of these questions. And, I think that's going to be an exciting segment. I want to get to the very first thing, though, that I think is on people's minds. And this is in the context of asking Ryan questions. Ryan, how are you? How have you been? And how does it feel to be back to FTN?
Well, I'll start by saying it's been a rough last 3 months, not FTN-wise. I love being back here. I'm very happy and very excited to be back in the league and get ready for another season of just my phone dying because Bean throws 20 messages in the groups a day about some random prospect I've never heard of that he wants to give a handy to. But other than that, the good news is that we are in a little bit of a recovering stage here. My health hasn't been great the last couple months. I came down with a big bacterial infection back in November, December timeframe that knocked me out for about a month or so. And I've been going to different specialists and doctors just to be able to get back up and what. I'm not going to go into a lot of what's been going on in terms of that, but physically, I'm feeling 40. So it's better than last week where I was feeling 50. So I've gone from Randy Johnson to Pablo Sandoval. So we're getting there. I've lost. Good news about this is I've lost about 30 pounds in the last 2 months. So
you look great. Whatever you got to do.
I don't know how much of it is muscle, how much of it is fat, and how much of it is just mental strength. But the combined total is roughly about 30 pounds. But really looking forward to another year here. It's obviously been a year, and it's been far too long. And we're ready to go.
Yeah. I do want you to know that a lot of the questions that were submitted, there were the potential to ask up to 3 questions, and numerous people, their first question was just asking how you're feeling. People care. So glad to hear that things are looking better.
Mm-hmm.
Remind you, we have Graydon in the league this year, joining for the first time.
Yep.
I know you know Graydon personally, but although I don't know if Graydon knows your baseball takes too personally. But then there's another new guy, Jacob, as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Jacob has any history with you. So why don't you walk through, just for the sake of Jacob and anyone else who may have not had the chance to interact with you all that much personally, where do your loyalties lie? What do you do right now? Because I know you have probably the coolest job of any of us when it comes to avid baseball fans.
Yeah, so I work with the Memphis Redbirds here. I'm a corporate sales executive for the team. It's a really fun opportunity down here, and I'm very excited to be part of the organization in that capacity and continue to do that down here. It's a really cool experience. On on the topic of where I'm coming from in terms of my baseball takes, I'm going to go kind of twofold here. I'll talk about usually my strategy and typically where you could find me in the standings, and depending on what type of year you can kind of predict what's happening. First, we'll go with what type of roster I'll set. I'll be looking heavily into home runs and ignoring completely stolen bases. That's been my motto, even during my good years in the original first 3 or 4 seasons of this. If I get a good player, they better be able to bang home runs. I'm not a stolen base guy. I think I should get better in that range, and I'm trying to make the prospects that I have in my pool more well-rounded to give me a little bit more opportunity to win categories that aren't power-based. And in terms of pitching, Adam knows this quite well. I love me some spin rate pitchers.
Oh boy.
Spin rate, low strikeout per 9, high, but also low runs given up. So basically, just the most boring pitchers ever. I think I had Lance Lynn for like 3 seasons, and like not elite Lance Lynn. I think I had like middle of the road Lance Lynn and refused to drop him. But no, I like pitchers that are like consistent ERA and WHIP wise. I know I'm probably working from a little bit of a disadvantage there, since I think the one that is going to get the most innings this year is Jose Berrios. So it might be a little bit of a different concept where I'm going to be trying to go for strikeouts or just like anything, just trying to pull anything from anywhere and see what I can do. I might take the Sean approach this year and just, if I have a good week Monday through Wednesday, get over that inning limit, just shut it down and go from there. I know it's a bitch out strategy, but it's something that I think might have to be applied. In terms of where I come from in terms of baseball and my history in this league, I'm going to be at the bottom this year. I know this. But think of me as Daedalus and Icarus, if you ever know that story of getting too close to the sun and getting to the finals. I think it was 2021 or 2022. It had to be 2022. Sure. Getting to the finals, flying all that close, being really, really good, and then deciding to not only sell everything immediately after making the finals, all the wings come flying off.
Right, it's like if Icarus cut his own wings off.
Yes, he didn't get. He got very close to the sun. The sun didn't burn the wings off or melt the wings off himself. Icarus took a hacksaw to his shoulder blades.
Right, Icarus took a flamethrower out of his back pocket.
Icarus decided, you know what, I'd rather just be a Boeing airline and just plummet to the ground instead. So, like that's kind of where my strategy is. If I'm good early on in the year, you'll know based on the fact that I'm not going to sell everything. If I'm bad, which likely I will be, throw me a few deals. Again, I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity for me to continue rebuilding this to try to get ready for 2025, because I think that's maybe not where my timeline begins, but maybe that's where an upswing begins of sorts if we play this right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely, I imagine that the team is not where you want it to be as of right now. As you just said, you're a player that on offense looks for a lot of consistent power and home runs. As you currently roster Luis Arias, Vaughn Grissom, Tony Kemp, Mauricio Dubon, and Jeff McNeil, which is an interesting core of players that can to sink one's home run totals for the week. Yeah. Was that intentional? Were those value pickups? Do you project some sort of power gains from them going into the season, or are these guys that you can expect to be replaced in short order?
Fodder. That's where we're probably going with there. I think many of them are foddersome. I think immediately you look at Tony Kemp, who may not even be on a team to begin the year. Let's be honest.
Crazy that he is rostered.
Crazy that he's rostered. I don't think he's going to be in a while. I think if I was taking better care in the offseason of my roster, I think we'd be having different conversations. The ones that I think could be of value in the low percentages of ownership, I truly think with some opportunities opening up in Boston, I think Adam Duvall might have some stuff. He showed some life last year in Boston. I think there's every chance in the world that if he stays healthy, he's able to put at least 20 bombs out there, which would be great. And then I'm a little higher on Leody Tavares than maybe the projections are. I think that's another guy. He's projected currently only for 13, but 18 stolen bases, which again, getting a little bit well-rounded there, trying to get closer to that maybe 15-20 mark in the projections. I see him actually as having a potential to really explode this year in an offense that should be a fun offense to keep track of. Again, going for another successful year. With that being said, now Dubon probably not making the roster. Let's be frank. And then Jeff McNeil. I mean, you need a glue guy.
Locker room presence.
Locker room presence. Yeah. Garrett Mitchell probably also gets released at some point too. Before we get too carefully into that, there's a lot of players that are no longer on teams on my team, so I got to figure that one out.
I had Garrett Mitchell ranked in like my top 40 prospects when I published
He's fun.
those.
I think Ryan was talking about Garrett Cooper anyways.
Garrett Cooper, not Garrett Mitchell.
Garrett Cooper. That makes way more sense.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I think Garrett Mitchell, he was in the dispersal draft. I think he went to Graydon, though.
I believe so as well.
Okay. Garrett Cooper, that's a different story.
One more question before we get really into the meat of things. You mentioned how you have a little bit of experience with sort of self-imposed tanking and rebuilding. Yep. Do you think that you were close to being able to come back out of that rebuild before you had to leave the league? And B, do you have any takeaways from that experience that you will bring into your current rebuild situation?
Before Ryan answers that question, let's go through the timeline just a little bit. So I believe Ryan left the league at the beginning of 2023, but that was the first year of your rebuild because you made the finals 2021. No, you made the finals 2020.
No, I made the finals 2022.
It was Drue, Jack, Ryan, Jack.
I made the finals. I made the finals the winter that I was. It would have been 2021.
It had to be 21.
It had to be 21 because I was living in Buffalo when I made the finals. April 22.
Did you tank 2022?
It was in between. So follow me here. 2021, I had made the finals and then sold Rafa Devers while I was still living in Boston. So the tank really began in earnest that year.
With Rafa,
and then I bought back on a few things, including Rafa Devers, before having to call it quits for the year. So
do you think you were close? Was that a plan that was going to come to fruition anytime soon?
I think there was a lot of ways that I was trying to look at it to continue to potentially have it be a retool instead of rebuild, and I may have given up a lot for to get Devers back, to reacquire Devers, and what makes sense at first, I think, was trying to get rid of the pieces that I did, because I remember I also got rid of Goldschmidt around that time too. In a vacuum, that made sense because of the age, but I guess he just continued producing and actually got better, which was wild. But I think what I did was overextend the sale. I think I probably should have kept it to Goldschmidt, sell. You can sell a few other things, pitching as well. I know I was part of that group that passed around Scherzer like a used cigarette. But if we remember that from 3 years ago, that was a funny I traded
you Anthony Volpe for him. Of course I remember.
Yeah, no, that was a trade. And then I think that there could have been a lot of success. Maybe not in terms of being a playoff team, but maybe getting closer to that 500 mark and taking it step by step by step. I think that there was some room to grow over a year's worth if there was enough TLC put into it.
Well, Harry has taken your unfinished product and he is still working on picking up the pieces a little bit. But
he's thrown a few of the pieces out of the box, in my opinion. But that's good for Perry.
he let's talk about it for a second. All right, we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. I want to get your thoughts on Perry's rebuild, and what he's done with your former team. But let's talk about real quickly, as a Yankees fan, Ryan, as you're from New Jersey, grew up in the area, longtime Yankees fan. Was there ever a doubt about who your first pick was going to be in this year's dispersal draft, or was that just a done deal from the moment that you knew you were going to be the number one pick?
I think it probably was a done deal, but it didn't really have anything to do with the Yankees affiliation. I just saw it as, MVP caliber production, and the top end prospects, even the top prospects, their ceiling is going to be MVP caliber production. If that's already in there, if an MVP caliber production is already in there as like, hey, this is a finished product, this isn't a prospect anymore, this is somebody that's been doing it for years and years. And oh, by the way, he can hit to all fields with power, including the short porch and right whenever he feels like that. Yeah, you take Aaron Judge in front of everybody, and then see how the rest of everything falls. If it falls in your wheelhouse, then whatever. But
it's interesting you say that, because obviously after you took Judge, you sort of went with a more prospect-oriented approach. Mm-hmm. Can you sort of walk us through sort of what you saw in those first couple of picks after, like, looking at the field, that where you decided that, I'm going to go for a really, really boosted farm system?
So I knew that the strength of the three teams that we were kind of selecting off of, the strengths were really in regards to the prospect system. I think that there was, for the most part, the majority of the value was in futures rather than anything else. I think, and that was assured for the first few rounds. I think that there was a opportunity for me to look at it and go, you know what, if I get, Aaron Judge, he might not have future or present value on my squad. I don't know when my window opens based on what I have in my farm system, which is a good farm system right now. I think I made out super well with that at the moment and continue to. But depending on which pieces come up, what I'm able to kind of swing for, how well-rounded my team is. Obviously not well-rounded now, but let's say maybe 2 years down the line, maybe next year. If it's not looking like it's trending in the right direction, you can always use Aaron Judge as a piece to get more. I think Aaron Judge has that value over these next few years. Even if a team is not looking for it long-term or him long-term, he'll be a valuable person in the next couple of years at a deadline or something like that you can use and have that be, hey, you want your final Infinity Stone, here you go. It's going to cost you, like, what do you have to offer for that? But having the one, and then it did mean giving up on a couple of prospects that I would have liked to have. I sorely, and I wanted to say this to Graydon, I sorely was hoping that Wyatt Langford was going to fall to me in that wheel round, because I would have gotten Langford in a heartbeat. He is unbelievable, and I'm still happy that I made out with Skeens and that I still have the farm system that I do. I think it's a good start.
Yeah, do you have, like, obviously you drafted these guys in a particular order, it's sort of indicative of, their value in the MLB and, like, our fantasy system overall. But outside of that, do you have any, favorite players of the guys that you drafted, any sort of prospect crushes that you would be higher on than the value that you selected them in?
I think the main one that I'd look at in terms of value for who I would have in terms of, if we're going by prospects only, I look down at what we've got, and it's not like there was a ton of huge pickups, I'd say, in the draft that I would have, that I would look back and have a huge, like, okay, this guy was worth it type of thing. What I would say is that I think in the trade, and I know we've established kind of to maybe not talk about trades and stuff like that, but one of the ones I did want to highlight and that is now in my farm system is Brock Wilkin, who I picked up with the trade of Castellanos in that package. Now Wilkin is currently in the Milwaukee system. He's not going to be he might be the number one option at third base going forward. He might not be. It's still to be determined which slots they fill out with whom. Because they currently have another person. It's not off the top of my head. I can't remember who the person is, but they're kind of a corner infielder for the Brewers that they're looking at. But Wilkin is second in line there. And either he's like the way that he's played, he's going to be in the majors probably by 25, maybe getting maybe a September call-up. And if he's a corner infielder, that's great because that's something that I desperately need. And that's something that a lot of people desperately need is starting corner infield work that works well.
Corner infielders definitely a rarity in this league. A lot of what you're just saying, we're almost getting to one of our community questions. So this one is from an anonymous user, and they wanted to know, what is your biggest regret from the dispersal draft? And it sounded like not picking up Wyatt Langford might be one. What's another big regret that you have from the dispersal draft looking back on?
I think just my preparation may not have been like the best. If we're honest, I looked at it and went, okay, I have a list of 50 people, the top 50 people or top 40 people or what have you. And I really did well in that regard. And I found it incredibly, incredibly difficult to continue to keep up with, have this here and the live draft's going on here. And now all of a sudden it's back to me and continuing to do that. And that's why there were a lot of picks, including 40-year-old, God, what the fuck's his name that I picked? I can't even remember because I dropped him almost immediately after. That was such a waste of a pick. I was so bamboozled because I thought he was so much younger than about to be retired. But I think the majority of where my struggles came in was not necessarily the prospects because I had them pulled up and I knew where I was going with those. It was more of okay, how are we filling out this heap of garbage that is my active roster, and how are we doing it to where maybe I can find something that long term can bring me some joy.
Yeah, Adam, do you have I know we have some more community questions.
No, please, happy to get into that. So you mentioned before your affinity for power, and you mentioned even after that your affinity particularly for Rafael Devers, notably not on your team right now.
No.
How many and how aggressive have you been with trading for Rafael Devers? I'm assuming that you have been thinking about it.
I mean, the thoughts crossed my mind. Listen, I love Devers a lot. The issue with it is twofold. One, I haven't been the healthiest, so kind of it's not been kind of on top of mind for it. But now that you say that, the issue
now they're getting going.
Now they're getting going. The issue is that, and this is less of a Rafa ordeal because I think he's unbelievable, but it's more of a Boston Red Sox ordeal because I'm looking at that roster and I'm looking at the steps that they've made and the investment or lack thereof that they've put into it. And I'm saying to myself, where are we going here? What are we doing? Like, you signed Rafa to a long-term deal and everybody else left. You let Xander Bogaerts go to San Diego. JD Martinez has not been there for a while. Chris Sale, left to go to be a pitcher elsewhere.
In what world do we live in where Tyler O'Neill is not considered a massive pickup? That was a huge get for the Red Sox.
Oh, world. We live in this world. That's the world.
No, I don't like his numbers are in terms of hitting shouldn't really take a hit. Like, I think his average goes down a little bit because obviously when you have such a strong top of the lineup, as the Red Sox have done for a lot of his career there, you tend to face a lot of pitchers that go from the stretch instead of the windup, and you're able to read it better. But with with him going to face a lot of pitchers, maybe as the number 4 hitter, and after a lot of 1-2-3s, I see his RBI numbers going down a lot. I see his runs probably also going down. Home runs are always going to be there. Production, doubles, triples. He's always a machine when it comes to that, and using the monster and being a menace in terms of offense. But
his RBIs have always been like his calling card in our fantasy league.
And it's why he's been such a valuable asset. Like, I think Jose Ramirez is the only one that kind of like comes, or one of the only ones that comes close in terms of a corner infield. I know Adam just like had some pain.
I winced. Matt Olson like exists, and so does Goldschmidt. And so
but
a variety of other counting stats, corner infielders. But
I think I should have probably said third baseman. Nolan Arenado I know also exists, but I think in terms of offensively, I think Devers and Jose Ramirez and those. That's the standard, I think.
Yeah,
I could be missing one or two people at third, but
I find it interesting, that you say this about the Red Sox for a variety of reasons. One, it's not surprising that you would be shit-talking them as a Yankees fan.
Mm-hmm.
But I find it surprising because you are so heavily invested in the Red Sox at the current moment. With Jarren Duran and Vaughn Grisham and Adam Duvall. And you sort of view them as sort of a young up-and-coming team, or trying to, maybe they're just a disaster.
I think they're leaning towards mid is probably their ceiling. It's not necessarily investing in the whole team. It's investing in what pieces I think might actually do something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been the problem with the Red Sox, I think, for a while is that they really haven't, they could have gotten the Bogarts deal done, gotten their shortstop for the next few years. That they never did that. JD, I understand, was on his way to being a little bit older, maybe to shift him out of the lineup. Not only did they really not do anything to replace him, they didn't trade him for anything. He ended up going away for nothing. The Alex Verdugo trade, the Mookie Betts trade is where everything kind of went down. That was basically the Red Sox version of me trading Rafa Devers in 2021. That's the comparative. You do that, and you let Verdugo go to the Yankees, and he was the major part coming back. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was Jeter Downs also part of that trade for Mookie Betts as well, or am I all off?
He was a part of a different trade.
Part of a different trade. Okay. Well,
yeah, I think so. No, he was part of the Mookie trade.
It was Connor Wong. It was
Verdugo. But I think maybe Jeter Downs was a part of that trade.
Well, Jeter Downs is an interesting one because not only has he been traded, he has been DFA'd and moved around. So it's sort of hard to track where in the world has Jeter Downs been, because you can't always link it to trades. Only in this league.
But no,
he was confirmed part of the Mookie Betts trade.
Wow, good poll.
Yeah. And all of those assets turned out to be, pumpkins. Like, it's not necessarily that Verdugo is even a bad player. He's just an average player that you traded for and gave up Mookie Betts. Like, yes.
I have a question, but for both of you, just on the topic of the Red Sox and outfielders that may or may not have reached potential. Benintendi or Verdugo? Who's the better baseball?
Goodness. Baseball player, I think, is Verdugo because of defense. I just like instantaneously, that's my instinct. But I actually really don't think that either are very good.
No, neither do I.
Benintendi,
you don't think either of them have fantasy relevance going forward?
They've never had fantasy relevance. The fact that JD is rostering him as a bit and still winning this league is hilarious.
I have to say Benintendi has had one season where one full season where he's had an OPS above 800. The rest of them have been very, very mid. He's not he's somebody that can get you a few home runs, not when he's feeling it. 2022 obviously was not great for him. 2023 may have been even worse. And stolen base wise, he runs, but he should be very lucky that the big bases are there, because that's the only reason that he's able to do it anymore. Like, he's getting up to a point where you either have to be good and be really good and average and on base, and he really is just an average player. Verdugo's an average player too, but he occasionally gets you pop. And I think being a lefty in Yankee Stadium this year, I think Verdugo's going to have a little bit more success. That being said, like, Benintendi really had one good year, guys.
Look at us going from Jeter Downs to Andrew Benintendi, Alex Verdugo talk. Could we be the most irrelevant fantasy baseball podcast online?
We're trying.
I offered like 70 BAM for Verdugo like 2 years ago to Laffy, and everyone in the league knows that I've tried to acquire Benintendi in the past from JD, but he always had a Benintendi tax, and then he called it a Royals tax, and then he just straight up called it a Drue tax, and I wasn't allowed to own him.
You guys are so stupid.
So moving on from that topic, let's change gears here a little bit. I want to go back to this is like another community question, and we almost got into it earlier, but I delayed it. So let's get into it now. Ryan, I want you to, if you can, pull up Perry's team and his farm, and what is your opinion on what he's done with your former team over the past year?
Well, the team that I had is no longer recognizable to the team that is currently in play. So I think that's the easy answer on that one. It's just so different. Let's take a look. He is, I believe this is him. Let me see, where is he? Nope, that's Jacob Shore. Good Lord, I can't even tell. I guess he put a generic logo in there. What's his team name now?
Well, he's in the division, so you can always find him by the division.
He's in the division with me and Max.
Okay, let the kids play. Okay, yeah, no, this team is. That's why I couldn't recognize it. It's so out to left field. So, like, so you still got Cronin Daddy, so that's a positive. But like, Cronin Daddy stocks are a little. Cronin Daddy stocks are a little bit low right now. I'll have to admit. I think the sell market was a while ago. Taro Estrada, correct me if I'm wrong. That's a guy that is always, just watch out for him. You watch it. He's gonna be right there, and he's supposed to take a huge leap. And he's a guy. Anthony Volpe, could be fun. He's rostering Stephen Kwan, so that's definitely a choice. Michael Harris is awesome. That's a good player. Jordan Walker, I think he'll be very happy with in a few years. Rhys Hoskins in Milwaukee, that's not great.
He's like, Ryan, think about the state that you left this team in.
Yeah. Can we go back a few years to see what the roster was in 2022?
Let's go to week 1, 2022. Or week 1, 2023 of last year, because you didn't leave the league till like week 3.
Last minute, so he really couldn't have done much here. Let me go to history and see what I left.
Okay, I'll actually read through his first couple of moves. Well, I'll really do his big first move, which is trading Mark Vientos and Francisco Alvarez for Michael Harris and Bam, with like a weird Vientos Harris home run thing.
And how much BAM are we talking?
It was 10 BAM and a number of BAM at the end of the 2023 regular season based on a home run thing, on combined home runs from Alvarez and Vientos divided by 4, rounding down. It ended up being like 5 BAM or something. So it was.
I'm glad Harris had over an 800 OPS and went almost 20-20. But like, what did Francisco Alvarez do his rookie year? I know catcher
hit bombs.
Yeah,
he
hit bombs.
I don't know.
He hit 25 home runs in his rookie year.
I consider Michael Harris a win.
I know, but giving up Francisco Alvarez, I know he's a catcher, but kind of nice to have those. And Mark Vientos also is a legend too, but that's in more ways than one. We know my feelings on Mark Vientos. I think he's
that's some deep FTN lore right there.
Yeah,
out of the park legend.
I think he is not only an out of the park legend, he's soon to be an in the park legend too.
Is he now?
So, yeah. Also, Perry currently owns Jeremy Pena, so okay.
Not a big Jeremy Pena guy, huh?
No, No, he also still owns Tim Anderson. That's a guy I was going to sell off as well. Perry didn't sell him off in time, didn't jump off that ship, and now he's stuck with him and what appears to be Zach Neto. And I'm looking at his pitchers too, and oh, good, the Tigers are still there.
Right, what pitchers?
Yeah, like Matt Manning, newly acquired Jack Flaherty. I see
Guys.
Come
on.
I see he's still paying for my Lance McCullers fuck up. Ooh, Jesus Lizard. Hunter Green is still there, which is good, but he sold off Nick Lodolo, which is bad.
I have said on multiple occasions that Perry has probably the worst but most fun pitching staff in FTN. To just like be able to like turn on a game and like watch Edward Cabrera pitch like must be fun for like a minute, and like I would be excited to do that for like a minute.
Yeah, and then you're just chewing through whatever nicotine you have in the house, like
exactly, and same with Jesus Lizard, and so, like even I mean I was gonna call Matt Manning fun. I'm gonna stop myself before I do that. I'm gonna let my Tigers bias show a little too much.
One week I want to offer Perry 50 BAM for Edward Cabrera. The next week I want to offer him 80, and the next week I don't even want to roster him.
Right. What a roller coaster. Isn't that what we do this for?
Cabrera, then 80 BAM for Edward Cabrera. To scratch that, is Sixto Sanchez available for nothing?
Oh. I was trying to find that. Do you guys just remember? I want to just paint the image for the people that are listening. You I think it was you, Adam, sent a video of Sixto Sanchez's like post-surgery throwing routine, and it looked like a robot. It was
that was 2022. I think we're on year 3 of his recovery, because correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if that was 2022 or 2021. I remember that he came in late in the season. I believe it was 2021. Lit the world on fire.
It was part 2020. I think it was the COVID season.
No, because I think I was living in Buffalo when I think it was after that. He lit the world on fire, and it was 2020. Drue was right.
I hate it when he's right. God
I hate it when he's right. But he lit the world on fire. He was so electric. Maybe not the best strikeout stuff all the time, but he was electric for a rookie. And then he completely disappeared off the face of the earth because apparently he both got injured in terms of his arm, and he got injured in terms of his talent. So how that happened and he's never recovered, it's the most mystifying thing in the world.
And then again shows how much the baseball world has changed even in that short time, that we were all like, oh my God, Sixto Sanchez is the truth. He throws a 93-mile-an-hour sinker. Everyone needs him right now. Like, just comparing like the top pitching prospects now to the ones that, like, if you don't throw 97 right now, like, you are like not even making bigs.
You're irrelevant.
But Sixto Sanchez was like the second coming, just it being like the most boring really Ryan Ulrich pitcher of all time.
I mean, he was electric in his own right, but now we're rolling our eye. We're rolling our eyes when a CBS Sports report comes out from him personally saying he's 90 to 95% healthy, which is just, you roll your eyes at it, because whatever that means, you can't. It's been 3 years. It's going to be 3 full seasons since he threw a pitch in the major leagues. Can you believe time has gone that quick?
He's the NL Forrest Whitley.
I was about to say, I think Forrest Whitley has pitched in the major leagues more recently.
Yeah.
That might be wrong, but in my mind, it is true.
Yeah. Like 4 years ago, my hairline was down to here, and Goober's actually added more hair somehow over the last 4 years. So
I've been working hard.
Yeah, just for men.
I believe I was in college when Sixto Sanchez was good. I had yet to graduate. So back in the good old days.
It's very possible.
So, Ryan, looking at your former squad, and now that you're feeling a bit better, and you yourself said you didn't necessarily come into the dispersal draft super prepared, but now the baseball season is going to be upon us, I assume we can expect some moves being made. Is there anyone from Perry's team, your old team, that you're just like, I got to get them back?
Mm-hmm. I have a red circle a red X, a red circle, just a target on this guy, Andrew Painter. Now,
I was
if
wondering about it.
Andrew Painter is number one circled on my "I'm going to get you back, sweetie. Don't worry, everything's going to be okay" list.
Speaking of guys who aren't going to pitch in several calendar years,
that's perfectly fine with me. Look at my team. I couldn't care
you
less,
got time.
but I got time.
Now, if you're not aware, Harry is a Braves fan.
Okay.
And so he might make a Phillies pitcher imminently available to somebody who's willing to pay the price. So future Andrew Painter, the Ryan Ulrich trade, I can see it happening.
Ryan
Circle that.
Ulrich, proud owner of one Sean Murphy. You might need like 150,000 BAM on top of Sean Murphy, but hey, it'll probably get the text answered.
You
One
know,
of these days, I will open the vault.
oh man. I think here's another fascinating question from the audience. Sean asked this one.
Hi, Sean.
John wants to know if you could go back in time to that magical 2021 season where you made the championship game and then you get into that offseason. Would you do it all over again? Would you blow it up?
I think I would probably, instead of using dynamite, I'd probably, do it with maybe a jackhammer, so a little bit less explosive. I think that there would still be a lot of pieces that I would tear up, Goldschmidt being one of them. I would tear up a little bit of the pitching. I knew going into – I knew that basically the name DJ LeMahieu drove Jack insane for that offseason. Because for some reason, DJ LeMahieu was the only reason that that Jack didn't beat me in that semifinal to go to the final. So really household name after that. But I think that there were pieces to trade that I did that I would do all over again. I think there were pieces that I traded that I think were mistakes to trade. I think Rafa Devers being one of those was a mistake. I think that there were others that maybe I was thinking to myself, okay, the future value is too high on these guys. Let's make sure that we get these for a few years from now. And then it turns out that Sixto Sanchez isn't coming back anytime soon. So the pitching suffers throughout. And like a lot of stuff that I projected to be in the next steps up for me to continue that rebuild didn't end up turning out that well. So, and in hindsight, I probably should have seen that coming. So the Rafa deal, probably not. I think having the farm system that I did and probably wanting to be a little bit more patient with that was the way to go. I still probably would have sold off pieces like Goldschmidt, though, because of age and because of where the window was.
And you only got that Andrew Painter one because you swindled me at a bar and traded me Chris Bryant.
Chris Bryant, baby.
And like Matt McLean, I think.
Yeah.
I don't
know. It was a package. It was a package.
Not to change the subject from Ryan Ulrich real quick to Drew Fowler, just to get back. We'll get back immediately after this one statement, because it has to do with how bad you've hurt him. I received a note this morning of the Newt fully optimized lineup with the full projection. If everything goes right, this is what the lineup is going to be like. And Chris Bryant is still firmly entrenched in that outfield spot. So Ulrich, I don't know if you did win that trade, but giving up a piece that could be part of a team's core, like Chris Bryant.
I think Chris Bryant is kind of, for Drew, what like your mom's, or I guess your grandmother's 30-year-old couch is. It's part of the furniture. It's now ensconced into the furniture, and you're not sure how it got there. It's been there for a while. What you don't know is that likely she has tried to get rid of it for ages and has failed to, and because nobody's wanted to take it from her cold dead hands. So Drew, I think if I'm correct, Chris Bryant has probably been, please take this guy, or I'll get a package. I'll sell for a good price for Chris Bryant, and I presume people haven't bitten at that. So I think it's not necessarily Drue maybe wants Chris Bryant, and I look at his downturn in production, but I think it might be one of those things that Drue's kind of stuck with, like a bad hand.
All
Look
it will
at
take
us.
is Andrew Painter and Matt McClain.
Look at us. Three FTN championship appearance squads, all with
I'm
mutual.
sorry, there's only one
one
champion in this room right here, and that is Bryce Miller Splitter. So you put some respect on my name.
I have not actively shopped Chris Bryant, actually, but I was roster baiting so hard last night. It's not even funny.
It's been 18 months since I have heard that word.
18 months since you roster baited, Ryan. It might be time to, unleash a little bit.
That's good.
Open the valves.
Getting back into the questions, I got one more for you, 2 parts. I will start by saying, obviously, no one has broken the threshold as this player is obviously still on your team.
Yeah.
But, when everyone's calling, checking in on you, welcome back to the league. Hey, how's you doing? What are your thoughts? Obviously, Aaron Judge is the name on everyone's mouth. We mentioned it a bit earlier that you might look to trade him at some point. I'm sure you've gotten some trade offers already. What is the worst offer that you have received for Aaron Judge at this moment in time?
So there was one that Sean sent me a while ago.
This couldn't be less surprising.
I would have to take a look.
Was it just Zach Geloff?
Geloff was part of it, I think.
I'm sure.
I was thinking it might just
I think he was nice and actually put 2 people in there.
No, very nice.
Geloff was one of them. I don't necessarily know what the other one was, but I know in terms of the worst offer for him, Sean. And it was funny because he had said, and he had texted me a little bit, and I got to pull his thing up from a while back. February 8th, he said straight up, I would trade you Judge, or I would trade you Yamamoto for Judge. I didn't text him back because I was busy and also not feeling well. And then he said the next day he sent me a trade offer, and then I looked at it, and that was the fastest that my hands have moved in a while, just to be able to close that off, because it was a 2-person, two for one, and Geloff was part of it. I would have to see who else he put together, but both of them were on his roster, and neither of them were prospects. So,
okay. And then, on the other hand here, obviously don't need to get too much into detail. Again, obviously no one has reached that threshold. But What is the best offer that you have received for Aaron Judge so far? And potentially, as much as you can give a hint, what would you be looking for in a return to maybe push one over the hump to where you'd actually really think about it?
So, quite honestly, I really haven't gotten a ton of great offers for Judge. I think it's mostly because I've been kind of not necessarily inactive, but I've stepped away for a little bit because of things that have been going on, and not fully into the aura of everything yet. However, what I would be looking for, again, it's an MVP. It's one of the biggest assets in the league, and the only reason that Aaron Judge really hasn't wrecked shop in our league is because previously he was owned by a team that didn't do much to separate themselves from not only their division, which should have been easy enough, but separate themselves in terms of being a really great team, which is kind of sad. But he can be the game changer of a championship season. So I'm looking for a team, and I look directly. Unfortunately, I have to look at JD because he's got the best.
Don't
one of the
do
best
this.
teams.
Don't do this.
He's got one of the best teams, and he's got one of the best farm systems.
Oh God.
So you look at that and go, okay, that might be a team that I call later.
When
it comes to
that. I'm not
Because
even letting this be spoken into existence.
edit. We're not gonna let him replace Andrew Benintendi with fucking Aaron Judge. No, sir.
At the right cost.
Would you be looking for? Yeah, I mean, you're looking at your window. I mean, is this something that you're looking for major league pieces? Is it prospect pieces? Do you see yourself in like a 2 or 3 year window coming back together? Maybe that's what an offer would need to be, sort of based around.
Yeah, I think the good news is that his roster is that deep where even some of the pieces on his bench, the younger pieces that, might get that might get overruled for Aaron Judge, or that might not fit in, or that may be pitchers or anything like that. I think he's got such a deep team that I could grab value out of that. And then I look at his farm system, and there's so much talent to go around, not only current talent, but also looking at how deep his even the players are that don't feature in the top 100, how smart he's been with his band. Like, it's ridiculous what players he's gotten with the band that he spent. Like, he's been so good at all aspects of that. And I know would it be league breaking? It depends on what you look at. But the one who just won the championship, I don't think probably can speak on that. Drue, I value your opinion more on this in terms of the league breaking thing. But that's one that I would just look at and go, what do you got? You got Xavier. Well, I'm looking at some of the players that he's got, and there's a lot to like. So
I just can't believe that just like the worst podcast of all time. I mean, we have talked about Jeter Downs. We have talked about Alex Verdugo. We have talked about Sixto Sanchez. And now we have talked about trading Aaron Judge for JD's bench pieces and prospects. I mean, we can't publish this. This is demonic. It's cursed. It's terrible. And it's really harming my mental health currently.
You know what? I have one more community question.
Yeah.
I could send this podcast into overdrive in terms of how bad it is. But I swear I don't know. I swear I don't know who submitted this. It's from Anonymous. Do you have an opinion, Ryan, on the Drue versus Bean circus?
No, stop. No, we can't do this. No,
yes,
I'm vetoing.
We absolutely. First of all, thank you, Bean, for your generous question there. And second off, no, both of them. I've said this so many times, and this is actually a perfect thing to leave off on, because I've said this so many times to Drue. I've said this so many times to Bean. I've said this so many times to the FTN community at large. Whose side am I on? I'm not. I'm not getting in the middle of whatever they're doing, because they are the abusive relationship of FTN. The trades, the trades that they make are abusive in nature to both parties, to the point where you almost think that they like being hurt a little bit. And then not only being hurt a little bit, but being proud of being hurt a little bit. Like, taking those pieces, those irrelevant pieces that they switch around. Sometimes one of them, whoever, I'm going to say Drue more often than Bean. Drue will win a trade really hands down, and then 3 months later give it right back. Like, there is no consistency. And also, like, I'll side with Drue in terms of his promise and future, because Bean, I hate to say it, is one of those guys that typically buys high and sells low. He does the exact opposite of the stock market in this league. So when it comes to trades between Drue and Bean, I'll typically side with Drue, because that's just the way the world works, and you can't change the spots on a dog. But, like, in terms of roster construction, both of them, whatever you see in front of you right now, it's either going to be injury in Drue's case, or Bean's going to have an aneurysm and blow it up, and then talk about all the guys that he got that you've never heard of before that play in, like, some A-, like B- baseball league that is going for 40 and 40 off of plumbers, and say this guy is going to make it in major leagues. So that's my opinion on that.
Well, you clearly haven't seen the 2024 Newt optimized lineup.
That would change your mind.
It's like an Elder Scroll. You open it and it's just the truth. So
now it's the worst, because Drue has decided to mention Elder Scrolls in a baseball podcast.
There it is. We keep getting lower.
We have reached our zenith.
Well, unlike Elder Scrolls 6, which doesn't seem like it's ever going to come out, we do have the FTN live auction draft that is coming out. That's going to be It's going to be a few weeks from now. However, it starts this week. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm assuming either tonight, which is a Sunday when we're recording, or tomorrow, Monday, we're just a few days away from being able to submit bids or submit the names of players that you want to be a part of the live auction draft. That's coming on Thursday. Look for messages in the group me about it from any of your commissioners. But unless anyone has any closing thoughts here, I think we can wrap this thing up.
I have 2 closing thoughts, and both of them are in the same vein. Drue is rostering way too many Kansas City Royals.
We already
Because-
did our customary Drue Bean segment of the evening.
Also,
this is
also
about you, Ulrich. This is about you.
I want to just throw the nuclear button out there because we're gonna ride this wave all year, and I know that he's gonna become a meme, and I'm just gonna let you know that I'm here for the ride. Drew Waters is a Kansas City outfielder on Drew Fowler's team. That is a weekly. That should be not necessarily a weekly episode of the podcast, but there should be a weekly mention of. By the way, Drew Waters is this, or Drew Waters is that. Let's just have like a Waters watch.
I would say, unfortunately, the Drew Waters watch will probably end fairly soon. I actually have some guys coming up. Adam can confirm he's seen the Elder Scroll. The Drew Waters is not a part of. He's not a part of the master plan.
Drew, that's good because if you defended that he was part of the master plan, I'd be very concerned.
Chris Bryant's part of the master plan. Clearly, the bar isn't like crazy guy.
Are you kidding me? Chris Bryant is the plan.
40 homers, 120 RBI.
I don't know where my power comes from. It's Chris Bryant, 30 bombs or bust for me. I mean,
yeah. Who the fuck is this Juan Soto guy?
Never heard of him. Oh, what are your thoughts? Final question before we let off. What are your thoughts on Brian Cashman admitting that Juan Soto is probably going to be a 1-year rental before he returns to his rightful homeland in our nation's capital?
I'm going to reserve judgment based on if I ever want to work for the Yankees and this ever sees the light of day. That might what my actual thoughts may disqualify me from any position. What I can say is that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different outcomes. And what I thought was, potentially, going for broke, trading some good piece or getting Juan Soto in the door, and then if it's only for 1 year, that's not just a fireable offense. That's a get out of my state offense.
Well, it started off as a non-answer, and it ended as an answer.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really say much else besides he's a 25-year-old who's one of the best in baseball, and if the Yankees can't afford him, or if you can't find a way to be able to work him in long-term, what's the point?
I would think Soto wants to play for the Yankees. I feel like give them a little bit of a discount. Although it is the Yankees. I mean, no player should be taking a discount.
Yeah, if he really was feeling like taking a discount, he'd fire Scott Boras and hire literally anyone else. But he's got Scott Boras as his.
Right. Scott Boras with future Yankee Blake Snell for gearing up for their 1-year playoff.
That's another guy that I'm really pissed that we didn't get earlier.
The big 4 free agents remaining are all Boras clients, aren't they?
Yep,
like
predictably so.
Well, cool. Guys, thank you very much for joining. We are just under the 1 hour mark. That's great for the YouTube metrics. The
metrics of all 5 of us or all 12 of us that look at this.
I mean, I get hella ad revenue from this. So thank you guys for listening. We'll be back very soon. Obviously, not sure who's going to be on the next one, but I thank both of you guys for joining. Ryan, welcome back. We look forward to all the shenanigans and trades that you pull off. And Adam, of course, I know you're going to be helping write the season preview and stuff, but this time from up high as the reigning champion. So, everyone's going to be looking forward to getting your perspective on the state of the league and how things are. But until next time, hope you guys all have a great week, and we'll see you guys at the live auction draft. Thanks.
Sounds good.
Good luck.
Yeah.